I am a lover of thinking too much and overanalyzing everything. So here we are, you're here with a person who finds words to be impactful and important and identities to be fluid and significant. When I think of our choices and our identities and our stories, I think of Janet Mock, and with her, I have this quote: I believe that telling our stories first to ourselves and then to one another and the world is a revolutionary act that can lead to love, understanding, and transcendence and community. So, with that, I want you to kind of get thinking. We don't really need to do another warm up because Matthias was amazing. But if you would like, have your phone nearby. And I want to get to know, before I go any further and share more of my story, what are some of your identities? So I have this fancy slide, and I would basically like you guys to just use the QR code, or you can go to the website, but the QR code, I believe, is a little bit easier. And with that, you can fill in some of your own identities. And I'm hoping that we can kind of build a word cloud together. So I'll give us all a few minutes to just think about that. What do you identify as? What are some of the things people see when they see you? And if anyone sees that it's not working, just let me know. So, oh, it's working. Adventurer, cool. Nature lover, definitely. Father, awesome. Lots of women hanging out in here, lots of adventurers. We're all creative. Yes, I'm into it. Foodie for sure. Expat, queer, love it. Nature lover, yep. Sister, all these are wonderful. Good job, Mateus. Doggy lover, yep. Runner. Empath, that's a good one. Cat person, represent. Oh, this is great. So we all kind of can begin to see either other people's stuff. I know who a couple of you are. We see other people's identities and stories kind of coming through in here. I think we can find some differences and similarities as these words either get bigger or the outliers become something. We got knitter, anxious, I feel that. Nerd, geek, definitely, yep. Oh, I love it. Well, I feel like I could give you guys more time, but maybe I shouldn't. Okay, so identities are everywhere, and we don't always know the identities of people around us, right? Fast talker, I get that a lot. I get that I talk a lot. I get told that a lot since I moved to Norway. Amazing. My brother's on here, cool. Oh man. Analyst, nice. I wish I could do more of that work, yes. So with this, I think it's important for us, and we can come back to this at the end as well. We have a veteran, yep. But moving forward, I wanted to share a little bit of a few of my identities and why those are important and how those lead into our stories. Aw, handsome. Uh-huh. Love it. Okay, so I have a few of my identities on here, and we're going to go through a lot of them in this discussion. I'm currently a D&I consultant at Variety Pack based out of the UK. I am an ex-Mormon. I'm pansexual. I wrote accidental hipster in here. There's a story behind that. You can take it on any level you want. I feel like I'm pretty sarcastic and critical. I'm disabled. I'm a working class American, 32. But with that, everything, there's a story. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho to a military family, which means I was born in Texas and later graduated from high school in Utah. Basically, the topic of today starts when I was 13 and in science class. And I noticed a black swirl in the vision of my left eye. And because I'd worn glasses and my whole family wears glasses, none of us really thought anything of it. And we weren't super concerned. So flash forward some months, I'm still complaining about this weird black swirl in my left eye. And at this point, that black spot was getting bigger. So without insurance, our option was basically to go to the ophthalmologist at a Walmart in Boise, Idaho. And almost immediately, as soon as he looked in that eye, he said, "You need to see a specialist." By the end of that week, I was seeing a specialist in downtown Boise. By the end of the following week, I was seeing a specialist outside of Boise. And by the end of the next week, I was at Oregon Health Science University in Portland, Oregon. At this point, we thought that because we had gone out of state, it wasn't too big of a deal. We thought we had control over it still. Luckily, we had family in the area, so we made it a week-long visit. We thought we were going to go out, get it done, no problem. So we had fun, and I took time off school. Every kid loves that. That was great. But we had no idea that this cancer experience was going to go on for 3 years. So from 13 to 16, I was traveling, taking medications, going to and from Portland, using weird, painful eye drops. I ended up with 3 surgeries, and ultimately it came to the removal of my left eye. So with my next slide, in this photo, you can see me and my left eye, which is on your right. You can see it's a little messed up. It looks a little weird. And also my cheeks are super chubby. It may not be as clear if you didn't know me as a kid, but I was pretty scrawny. So here I am. I'm on steroids that were prescribed to me, which is why I gained about 25 pounds worth of water weight over the course of a weekend, which was really painful and a really hard experience to have my identity changed. People treated me differently. People could see as soon as they saw my face that something had changed, and they didn't hesitate to let me know it. And so that was the beginning of the impact that this had on me. They had no idea what this tumor was called. They didn't know the cancer. There was no name for any of it. All of this was exploratory. They were pretty shocked this was happening. And every time I sat in a doctor's waiting room, I was the only one under about the age of 75. So a lot of this, I felt very alone. And luckily I had a really supportive mom help me through this, and my friends and family were great. But yeah, I would sit there and I felt very alone. And of course, this felt more like a hurricane than a ripple. And at this time, I was still young enough that it was both a blessing and a curse. I tried to continue playing basketball, playing volleyball, playing soccer, playing the viola, and doing my thing. And that was all for the best. Here is a slide where I believe this is post my first surgery, which was exploratory, and I had to stay at sea level for 2 weeks because otherwise the gas bubble they put in my left eye would explode if I went too high in elevation through the mountains to go back home to Idaho. So we actually made another vacation about it. I had to hold my head down the whole time so the gas bubble would be positioned right. It was a long 2 weeks, even for a vacation. Once again, my teachers were great. They kept telling me I was getting work done. I was keeping it up. I was super productive. And so I realized I was handling my cancer experience with some humor. And sometimes I look back and wonder if that's a little bit of what naive looks like, if I maybe just didn't know what was coming. And so I was just kind of taking the hits as they came. The doctor's appointment that sticks out to me the most in Portland was one of my final ones. By this point, because of the eye drops and surgeries, my eye was pretty messed up. And my dad was with me for this appointment, which was unusual because my mom usually took me. So we, at this point, were so used to going to and from Portland that we flew in, flew out same day, Southwest Airlines, the cheap direct flight. And we did that. We flew in that day, we flew home that night. But in that in between, it was business as usual. And my doctor came in and Dr. Wilson ordered another exam. He ordered another ultrasound on my eye. And as we waited in the dark exam room, a few minutes passed and he came in and he very quickly sat down, looked at me and said, "The best thing for you now is the removal of your eye." And sorry, my dad and I sat there and I felt bad for my dad because I was like, Mom should be doing this. And but he just looked at me and I could see how helpless he felt. And I could see how none of us thought that this was an opportunity or a chance that this was going to happen. We had no idea. They never let us know that this could be the end of the road for us. So for me, I would try to be strong for my dad. He tried to be strong for me. As soon as the doctor left, I kind of looked at my dad and I was choking back tears. And I said, "Are you kidding me? They never said this was going to be an option. This isn't supposed to be happening." And the next few thoughts are why I'm here today, because I kept running through my mind. I just want to date somebody. I just want to kiss a boy. I just want to get married. No one will ever love me because of my eye. This has ruined my life. No one's gonna ever want to date me. No, what kind of kid would want a mom with a lazy eye? All of these thoughts ran through my mind. And uh, I don't think I said them out loud so much. I may have. I had a lot of questions of what biologically was going to happen to me next, but mostly it was, what's going on? And there's a lot of jumbled mess there. But of course, as a feminist studies scholar, the notion of my worth being built around babies and husbands seems a little hilarious now. At the time, it was a very real and specific way for me to specifically point out the ways in which my cancer had rendered me useless. I carried these doubts and questions with me for a really long time until one day I landed in a gender and disability studies class at the University of Utah. And it was taught by Professor Angela Smith. And she helped me realize in that very first class that I was disabled. I had been going through a disabling journey, and for years of living with denial, basically, that this was very real and what had been going on. This class helped me realize I identify as pansexual. It helped me realize I identify as disabled. And this class was a huge ripple effect for me, one of many. And it's enough of an effect that I now sit in front of you, as I have before, as a speaker, hoping my experiences of self-doubt, self-discovery, and self-love may help open either your eyes to someone else's struggle or help you identify something within yourself that simply because you or we haven't been exposed to the proper terminology, we may just not be able to label it yet. So moving along, in this next slide, this is after my last surgery, and I'm waiting for, I believe I was getting ready, hence the ironing of the skirt. I was getting ready for my prosthesis fitting. So it was my first prosthetic. I didn't know the process. I wanted to look nice. And again, we were back in Oregon, and that was a really scary day. But now looking back on it, it was all for the best. It was good. So this slide is one of the more interesting scientific ones. I hope you can see my mouse, but basically what we have here is a slide the doctors made several of because they hadn't understood what my tumor was or what my cancer was. They wanted to send it all around the world to be studied. And so unfortunately, even though I asked, they both didn't name it after me and they didn't let me keep my own eye, but hopefully it served a purpose for somebody out there. With the red, it allows you to see how messed up the shape of the eye was at the end, which was very painful. You can also see the retinal wall is now just non-existent, basically. It's caved in, and the really dark red you can see is the tumor. So this was what I was dealing with all this time. So this next slide is flash forward about, I'm 22, and my good eye, my right eye, I was noticing some flashes and floaters. And so the doctor said that I needed to get cryotherapy, which is why you see the red underneath and on top. You can see on my eyelid, he actually slipped a little during the procedure on my only eye and burned a little bit of my eyelid. So that's a little bit of that. But this was a particularly scary time for me because it was a few years after my final surgery. Here I was again experiencing this, and it just made us all a little nervous to be back in that room. That wasn't a place that I ever wanted to be ever again. And with this experience, I would be diagnosed with CPTSD, which is complex PTSD because of cancer. And I was assigned a social worker to attend doctor's appointments with me because I finally felt comfortable asking for support and they felt comfortable giving support. That was really meaningful. So with this next slide, we flash forward another 6 years or so. I'm about 27. I participated in an art exhibit for visually impaired artists in Salt Lake City. And this was the absolute first time I didn't wear my prosthetic in front of somebody. And I was finally coming to terms with not only what had happened to me, the language surrounding that, and how it affected me, but how I could approach myself to the world present myself to the world. And that was a really big breakout moment, especially I ended up printing them and having them framed. They were huge. They were up on an art gallery wall. And that felt really good. I was really scared and nervous, but everyone was so loving, welcoming, exciting. It just meant the world. And that was one of the first coming out moments that I've ever had, where that's how good coming out felt. That's how coming home felt like. That's how it was. And I just wanted to share that with anyone who would be willing to listen, because it really meant a lot to me to have that. This next slide is a part of the same exhibit. Let's see. And once again, this photo is really important to me because my glasses are on the table, and so is my prosthetic. I hope you're able to see that. And with that, I had never ever worn my eye out in public, outside of the home. And that was also really huge. And I remember being so nervous. What if someone walks by? What if someone runs by? And within about 5 minutes, I didn't care anymore. And that also was a really freeing experience of, I don't have to care anymore. It's none of their business. It's not my fault. It's not their problem. You know, this is something that has impacted me. And at the end of the day, there's this richness and depth to each one of our stories. And there's these events that happen, whether we meant for it or not, whether it was planned or not. And those experiences turn into identities, and that turns into stories. And for me, getting cancer meant that I, worked really hard. I developed a work ethic. I never gave up. I believed in something different and something more. And I think that that was just something that I wasn't ever expecting. And so with that, I really, I have some more I can show you guys if you'd like later in the chats, of just some eye things that I've collected, because with this acceptance of myself, my friends sort of, when they see anything eye related, they think of me and they send it to me. So I have some collections if you want to see. But I really want to just humbly thank you for listening to my story. And I went really quickly over something I could talk about for 2 hours. So if you would like to know anything else, I'm definitely here for you. And my final slide is just follow me on social media if you'd like. I have a TikTok video that goes through a lot of my prosthetic stuff, and there it gets a little bit more goofy. I show how I wash my eye or put on makeup with a prosthetic. And that's all I have for you. I humbly thank you, and thank you so much to the Creative Mornings team and for Astrid for helping me practice my slides, and for everyone in the US that showed up tonight. I appreciate you.